red carpet has been rolled out. We saw the arrival of the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture in the country, Mr. Zizi Godwa. He is inside. We are just waiting to speak to him now. The Minister of Correctional Services and Justice within the country, Ronald Lamola, is also here now, and we will speak to him shortly. In fact, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, will also be making his way and arriving here shortly to essentially lay the wreaths here at the Sharpeville Memorial in order to remember those 69 South Africans who perished on this day, essentially fighting against unjust apartheid laws. The President will speak to the residences of this specific area at the stadium, where he will highlight some of the challenges that they are facing: issues of water, issues of sanitation, issues of lack of jobs, issues of underdevelopment, and also issues pertaining to the livelihoods of the residences of this area. We know that the Premier of the province, Panyaza Lusufi, through the district development model, has identified a number of areas within this Mfuleni area and also Sharpeville to try and also resolve some of the challenges that these people are facing. And there is lack of proper roads within this area. It's only now that they started fixing the road infrastructure within this specific area. As you would know, that these commemorations are always led by the Minister of Sports and Recreation and Culture within the country, Zizi Godwa, whom essentially will take us through the program of the day. We are making our way to him now just to essentially get a sense of how the day will pan out, knowing that it is not only a commemoration of government. The Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, you saw our colleague Natasha Piri, she is there and she is monitoring that particular aspect. The Economic Freedom Fighters, through their CCT member and head of deployees within Gauteng, that is Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. He is also leading that particular commemoration. I'm just going to bring in the Minister of Correctional Services and Justice within the country, Mr. Ronald Lamola. Mr. Lamola, Sharpeville, 69 people perished. From a government perspective, what are you doing in order to make sure that those people's struggles did not go in vain, knowing that they were part of the turning point of the struggle within the country?
Yeah, thank you very much, Samkele. Firstly, is that you will remember that this was also part of the TRC process. The victims here, we ensured that through the TRC process, the victims, their children are paid for through the education fund, basic and both higher education. And also there was a once-off reparations payment that was made. But it's a work that is ongoing, because we also need community rehabilitation in the entirety of Sharpeville, which is something that is still ongoing. And we continue to ensure that on all the other TRC matters, there is a work by the NPA to open some of the inquests. You are aware, Akmo Timoli, the Imam in the Western Cape, we have recently reopened the Credec 4 inquest, Nogutulas Melane, and others are already ongoing trials. So that is a way to ensure accountability. But at the end of the day, from the conference yesterday, the Human Rights Conference, it's clear that what we also need to do is for the whole country's kind of rehabilitation, where we ensure that the equality clause in the Constitution become realized, particularly in relation to socio-economic rights of South Africans, because we remain an unequal society. So the next 60 years must be to respond to that.
The gravesite in Pelindaba is supposed to be a heritage site, declared by UNESCO and the United Nations, basically. But when you look at that heritage site, that grave site, it is a far cry of what it's meant to be, as the Department of Correctional Services and Justice working with sports, arts and culture. How do you make sure that you live up to those expectations of the United Nations? Mr. Zizi Godwa, can you...
Yeah, I think firstly, Samkele, we, as I've said, have put resources to respond to all the issues related to the TRC. And we continue to work with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture to ensure that all the heritage sites are preserved for, because in most of them you find that there is a memorandum of understanding between the Department of Justice or Correctional Services and the Department of Sports in terms of maintenance and also in terms of preserving the sites to be used for what they should be used for as heritage sites.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ronald Lamola. That is the Minister of Correctional Services and Justice, essentially saying that they will make sure that those TRC recommendations and agreements that were made will be totally fulfilled. We do know that Mpelindaba, the grave site, is meant to be a heritage site, but it is a far cry of what it is meant to be. We'll try later on, try and get the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. We were meant to speak to him, but he decided to do other matters. We will try later to try and get him.
Right, fair enough. Samkele Maseko, thanks very much nonetheless for the coverage so far. Samkele Maseko, part of our team in Sharpeville for us as we continue our build-up to the President's keynote address.